We're getting close to the end of Year 8's content drops, and with the original Survivor coming out next month and Five Nights at Freddy's coming soon after, Behavior have put in their first full anime-inspired chapter, this being the Japanese horror manga Tokyo Ghoul. But is it a slam dunk first try, or is it as bad as a ghoul eating human food? Well, there's only one way to find out. As stated previously, the killer is from Tokyo Ghoul, and it is Ken Kaneki, which might be a shock to some, saying he's the protagonist. However, this is an alternate universe, likely entity-controlled, where Kaneki became the thing that he hated the most, and killed Jason, instead of letting fate decide on if he dies or not. I like to imagine the Rize hallucinations were actually the entity whispering in his ear personally, but besides him, we got some really cool set pieces for the background, a new variant of Eerie Crows, balance changes, and the first batch of Project Health. So let's get into it. Kaneki, or as the game calls him, the Ghoul, is quite faithful to the source material, being from up to the first season or 66 or 67 chapters of Tokyo Ghoul's manga, though I'm not quite sure. His more is a reference to what he did to Jason once he snapped, and a lot of his add-ons are simple references to the happier parts of his life, being brown add-ons like his apron and coffee at Antiku, a safe haven as he was finding himself in this new world he was forced into, and his Eerie's, especially Yamori's mask, a reminder of the torture he had to bear that turned him into what he is now. His gameplay, however, while compared to the omnidirectional mobility gear from Attack on Titan, actually reminds me of Vora from Paladins. You use his Kagane to close gaps, block loops, and get a survivor into deep wound so you can go into his unique enraged state, giving you an additional leap and some nice buffs for a time. It works a lot like Wesker's lunge, but being vertical with the cost of working akin to Original Legion, only being able to put people into deep wounds and need to work for that down. Wraith is already one of my favorite killers, so that playstyle and Kaneki also being 150% movement speed just makes it all to click perfectly for me. He's an extremely fun killer to mess around with, and for those who might be stuck, I wanted to showcase some perks and builds I found fun to play on the One-Eyed Menace. Using only universal perks and killers who you get day one, there isn't many options you can use. Brutal Strength is a nice option, and Tinkerer too. It depends on what you want to use the perks for. Overall, I decided on a build focusing half on endgame, while the other half is on finding people and keeping track of them when they break chase. In a lot of ways, I kind of feel like a ghoul, keeping track of my prey so I can feast, but there's not too many options with the universals. Just wait until Pinhead Adioses to fix that. When you add non-licensed killers, however, it just gets better. Now you get options like Blight's Hexes, speed boosts on window vaults, and much more. I ended up going with a build focusing on vaulting windows faster, getting speed boosts, and punishing them for getting me enraged by having blood favor. And there's a lot of things you can run as supplemental perks like Pop, Pain Res, many other things, but since he's got a good speed-focused playstyle, perks that help with that momentum are really good. Unfortunately, most of them are licensed perks, but you still have a decent amount of options. And finally, without any limiters, there's a good amount of perks you can run. For example, Friends Till the End. It's not hard to get over and try and get value from it. Barbecue and Chili lets you see across the map. Nemesis, Lethal Pursuer, they're great options. Honestly, can't recommend a build. Kaneki is just too versatile. You could possibly slap 4 perks to synergize with each other and just go crazy. I tried mainly on focusing on hyper-aggressive chase perks, but I do recommend having some form of slowdown, like Surge, or maybe endgame slowdown with No Way Out. But overall, somehow, a killer I thought would be hard, almost impossible to implement in Dead by Daylight, flew right over my head and shattered my expectations. And honestly, I'm just glad, because with FNAF coming around the corner, this is just proof that they can just change and flip the script and you don't know what's going to happen next. Just like with one of the changes in the balance changes, so let's just get into that. More balance changes, and there's one I want to bring up briefly, even if they've completely changed it, and some things about Project Health they talked about, so let's get into that one first. The first thing they added was a surrender system. It's insanely basic, and for the most part, it's alright. but it has a simple issue. It's not a surrender system. When I hear the word surrender system, the match just ends. But no, actually, you're just replaced with a bot. And although, yes, if everyone becomes a bot, the killer can also leave, unless they just want to kill the bots for blood points, honestly, the system is a decent start. But it should work how a game like League of Legends does it. Have the team vote, and if the majority choose to give up, the game just ends straight up. The survivors are instantly killed by the entity, or the killer just leaves, while they get any blood point bonuses that entails. Have it set for specific events like gens taking too long to be completed, or slugging situations. I doubt many people would want to be slugged and vote to get out, and I don't blame them. But that's it for the health update. Let's get into the real meat and potatoes of these changes. With general changes, stealth killers like Ghostface, Skull Merchant, and Pig had their terror radius reduced to 24 meters, while Blight and Hillbilly got theirs bigger to 40 meters. Small changes, but will be really nice for the stealth killers, especially Pig. Finally, a change that isn't a nerf. The exit gates stay lit up for longer to make it easier to know where they are for the most clumsy of players, and the craziest change is the blood point events for survivors have mostly been reworked, especially in the blood point output and the categories. It actually feels like you can max out survival than it just being there getting like, I don't know, 2,000 to 3,000 max, which you love to see. And it will be way more common now to see survivors hit that big 40k, and I'm all for that. And while we're talking survivor, they got a base kit buff to deep wounds, mending themselves and mending others 2 seconds faster, but coming with another side of Legion getting buffed to make up for it, and they're quite sizable buffs, to making them feel nicer to play, and nerfing add-ons to make up for it. But I still aren't the biggest fan of Legion, but I'm just hoping the faster mending will make up for that. Chucky got changes, once again, more just shorter power cooldowns, and Scamper goes to max speed after doing a volt faster, so that's neat, I guess. I don't really care for Chucky, though. Xenomorph luckily didn't get fucking destroyed like they originally planned. Like, to give you an idea, this is what they wanted to do. Pretty messed up, I know. But overall, it's just a big old buff for the Xenomorph, on both sides with adjustments for the add-ons to make up for it. Like most people said, the tail being louder and having tiny adjustments to it is what they should have done in the first place, but I did want to play devil's advocate, that I didn't actually mind the changes if the flame built up only in Chase. It'd make a new risk-reward system all in Chase with Xenomorph, but I think it's best that they don't think about that and they don't touch it, honestly, because what the fuck would they think? Rant warning. The person who's making this video is about to get mad at the Oni changes, so heads up. The East has fallen. Oni now has an 180-degree turn with his strike, which I thought originally. I'm so fucking happy that they changed this. Finally, that that annoying complaint, oh, but consoles can't do it, but consoles can't do it. Now they can! Now they can! And I don't care. I'm so fucking happy. However, in reality, it was a massive sham. Like, unironically, killer killing bad. Now, I understand that most people who don't play Oni as much as I do would be like, no, it's just 180, everyone can do it now, what's the problem? The problem is that he loses the momentum when he goes forward. Originally, when you do those 180 turns, you keep that longer lunge while you're going around that corner. But now he has his generic 90-degree, which means that every single Oni chase is now either going to be the slowest 180 in human history, where you're not going to get it unless they're hugging the corner and it's very easy to interact with, or it's just not fun. I've played a couple of games and I've just got to say it, I just don't fuck with Oni anymore. I don't know what they did, but it makes me mad, it makes me sad, and I just want Oni back. That's why I paid $30 to make Oni dead in Kaneki's arms. Sorry about that. Moving into the killer perks, a lot of timer reductions and ability extensions with one rework. Alien Instinct is way stronger compared to what it was, essentially in the Oblivious effect being tripled. It was already a pretty underrated perk on killers who can keep survivors injured, so it's just better all around. Deathbound Oblivious radius is now 4 meters, so I hope you like hugging your friend to keep hearing the terror radius because that's now your life. Hysteria now has a 20-second cooldown, and the Oblivious is 40, so you could hypothetically make people suffer internal Oblivious, which honestly sounds funny, but it will likely be used on every Legion until it gets nerfed like Phanophobia was. Nemesis Aura Reading got doubled, which is real nice with my shitpost Tunnel Nemesis build, but most people won't run this perk anyways, so not the craziest change. And finally, the biggest one, a rework to Knockout. And I'll admit, the new effect makes less sense with what the perk is referencing to, and is just more messing with the survivor and killer speed. But I have to say it with everyone that good fucking riddance, old knockout, you will not be missed. And finally, with the survivor changes, not much to talk about honestly. Quick and Quiet, Deception, Dance With Me, and Red Herring got mainly cooldown changes to make them more valuable, and also got small additional changes. Deception, Dance With Me suppresses scratch marks for 5 seconds now, and Red Herring takes less time to activate. So neat changes all around. You can make more builds, but they'll be probably more ratty ones. Overall, pretty good balance changes, except for the death of one of my favorite killers, but hey, I still have Wraith. And speaking of Wraith, post-editing me here, I completely forgot to bring up what they did to the Area Crows. Essentially, they made a new map variant and a brand new palette loop. Basically the ones that you would see on Sable's map. But it's interesting. I understand why they did it because of the absolute assault of Area Crow's offering, since it is a survivor-sided map. But I'm mainly glad that they finally put drops on the main building. The amount of people who just bring the horse perk and, you know, do all the fun stuff like flip-flop and get away with it because the map was poorly balanced in the main building area. But I think that finally I might actually like this map. I mean, to be fair, I actually didn't mind the map. I just didn't like the amount of times it got sent there as Oni. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Now to the Wraith stuff. More killer perks means more of an excuse to talk about the Two-Eyed Cloaker, and how these new perks affect the Wraith stocks? Let's get into it. Forever Entwined isn't the greatest perk, mainly for picking up and dropping faster, but it's mainly another perk to use to mess around with survivors' timings with things like flashlights and flashbangs, and to punish survivors that try and get cheeky sabo saves, being ready to attack way faster. It's not the greatest perk, but it's solid support perk to add to mess with saves. Oh, and this and Fired Up look pretty goofy, all things considered. Hex Nothing But Mercy is going to be crazy on Wraith, a killer who can already have the ability to pressure totems and hit and run, so 8 basic hits for the Hex is easy, and 5% hindrance of 15 seconds is nothing to scoff at. Pair it with something like Rapid Brutality and the reworked Knockout, and there's just no running from this basically machine gun. I recommend giving it a shot, it's pretty fun. Other killers I think that would work are just other M1 killers like Trapper, and especially Clown. He already has strong hinder, so it's just overkill at that point. And finally, None Are Free, a new endgame perk, having the same ability as Demogorgon's Cruel Limits perk, but also blocking face-up pallets, and is during the endgame, for each unique hook, extending the time, and I think it's a nice perk, especially for momentum at the very end of a match, but it does feel short. At least Wraith can get easy value from it thanks to using his old Windstorm speed and pairing it with something evil like Noed, so I'm interested in trying it on some other builds. Overall, I'm just shocked these 3 perks are actually really nice on Wraith. It's finally broken the one being good and the other just being quite weak, so that's great to see. Now, let's wrap this video up. I'll admit, Tokyo Ghoul was an IP that I personally didn't want in Dead by Daylight. Not because it's anime or something limiting like that, but I didn't see how they would be able to incorporate the ability into the game and having little interest in the IP past the original run. But once again, behavior shows us that they still got it in them. And even if it takes bits and pieces from other killers, it still feels fresh and fun. But that's everything I've got to say in this video. Thank you so much for watching. There will be a part 2 of this video for the Blood Moon event, and stuff that they showed off in the upcoming livestream, so if you're interested in more Dead by Daylight content, or possibly JRPG content, then why not hit that like and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.